Hello and welcome to the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. In global political and economic characterization, Nigeria is classified among third world or developing nations. These are mostly countries that are politically independent but are dependent on economic support from countries classified as the advanced economies of the world. Third world or developing countries are known for their low technology, weak industrial base, low gross domestic product, slow economic growth, huge debts, slow economic development, and dependence on foreign markets for their sustainability. It is on this score that Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, is also seen as an emerging economy. But what role is its political system or practice of democracy playing in shaping its economic fortunes? How has the management of its famed petrodollars contributed to its developmental trajectory over the years? Now, to help us understand these issues and to speak to Nigeria's current challenges is a renowned scholar and a Baron Hilton endowed professor of political science, Professor NCHOR OKORN. He was head of political science department at Dillard University in New Orleans in the United States of America. He is also the founder of African Network Organization. Now, needless to say that Professor OKORN is a researcher and author of many works. Well, it's good to have you here with us, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to the fruits of our interaction.
Welcome. We shall go on a very short break. When we return, we will be going straight into our discussion. All right, my guest once again is Professor OKORN, a renowned political scientist who for many years has taught that subject in universities across the United States. Of course, even though he lives in the United States, Professor OKORN is frequently in Nigeria and interacting with the home front. Professor OKORN, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so they say charity should begin at home. Let's begin from the home front. 22 years of Nigeria's democratic journey. With all the challenges that have come with it, what would be, as a political scientist, your assessment of our politics and our democratic journey so far?
Well, I would want to say that democracy is the worst form of government, except that there is no other one better. When you talk about democracy, government of the people, for the people, by the people, you start from there defining it. It's a form of government. It's different from authoritarianism, and it has characteristics of supposedly freedom of the press, freedom of speech, right of movement, right of association, right to be heard in court, and right to be represented if you don't have a lawyer. And it's supposing that your criticism is accepted as a learning mechanism, according to Antonio Gramsci in his present notebook, Criticism and Self-Criticism. When you criticize your country or your institution, you make people think better. John Adams also, making reference to Bill Clinton, says, your critics are your friends because they let you know things that you did not know before. And knowledge is cumulative. It can be painful, it can be difficult, but collectively at the end of the journey, you become more educated, more tolerant, and more developed in the process. So having said that, you cannot talk about democracy in Nigeria beginning 1999 without the historicism and the background and the morphology of the country in general. Because we have, after 1960 of independence, it was truncated, the experience was truncated with the Civil War, and the Civil War led to about 2 million people dying, and but even before that time, the causation, the restructuring, as you know, is not something that has not been going on. Restructuring in 1861, Dosomu sold the country, Lagos particularly, to John Beecroft. But after that, many other attempts, the Maferson, the Littleton Constitution, all trying to shape what will become eventually Nigeria in a democratic quest of being a free country. But as you understand, we didn't fight for our independence. We negotiated for that independence, and therefore sub-nationalities, ethnicities were fused together without a plan of action as to how to relate with ourselves. And since that time, we fell into the trap and the mishap that we're having now, because if you go to the Swedish experience, they use ethnicities in trying to represent themselves. You go to different other countries now that are trying to, first of all, accommodate all the ethnicities or nationalities, because we are, first of all, a nation state. In the international community, we are not a nation. We are a conflagration of so many nations together. Therefore, in order to progress dynamically, we want to be able, or we should be able to accommodate, tolerate one another, hear ourselves out as to what our needs and so on and so forth in order to move on. Well, moving from the 1960 to the crisis of 1962 in the West, of course, Akintola, Awo, Zik was there. At the same time, when the election came out, Zik, of course, couldn't be there to represent, had to move back to the East. That twist and turns automatically began to shape, apparently, what is today. The cumulative effect is that we came back to 1964 and eventually to the coup that led to the demise of Tafawa Balewa in the north, and of course Kintola in the south, with the west Awo and the east Zik, Okpara and the rest all north. So that left also a landmine, if you will, mentally in the heart of Nigerians who are supposed to be brothers. First, they were fused together without their consultation. Then amalgamation, of course, of Nigeria was put Nigeria together without their establishing a bridge as to what are the mechanisms of surviving together and so on and so forth. And the name Nigeria was given by the wife of Lord Lugard, meaning black, and so on and so forth. So when you look at this background, we started from a faulty foundation. But a lot of things were a little bit problematic. If you talk about restructuring.
I'm going to come to that,
yeah.
Because the expectation is that, yes, we have had this crisis of nationhood from the First Republic up until we return to democracy, and especially so to the presidential democracy in 1999. And the expectation of many is that democracy was going to be able to right some of the wrongs of the past, particularly the divisions that appeared to have reared their heads during the autocratic rule of the of the various military administrations. But it does appear that democracy may not have worked as well and as effectively as the expectations of the ordinary Nigerians are. Because today, we are experiencing another round of agitations. Agitations for restructuring, which you talk about, agitations for secession are on the table right now. There are separatist movements in different parts of the country today. So, can we say that democracy is solving our problems as a people?
Well, there is the potential and the actual. People learn gradually, and a morphology occurs for tomorrow. However, like I said when we started, the restructuring is either political, it's either economic, it's either psychological, that somebody feels that automatically they have restructured to include him. One, as personal restructuring to include. There are minority groups that feel till today that they have not been included into the political pie of Nigeria, whereas they are contributing to the GDP and the gross national product of the country. And so that's their restructuring. Then the idea of, that's individualized, but the idea of, before getting to the agitations, the idea of particularly state creation. Some people, some states, feel that they have been left out. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, for example, when he was alive, said that Ogoja province is the only province in Nigeria that has not become a state, and he would have loved to have created Ogoja state. That's there. There are other areas that feel that there's an imbalance in state creation. Either that state, people are agitating for that, and other areas to balance the act, to create to an enabling environment, make sure that people feel that they are on the table. Some people feel 734, local government, that some areas needed to have been the local government on their own, but they were left out. So those are contentious issues that I'm sure through educational morphology, if a government learns together, working together, we are Nigerians, and most people would not agitate for separatism if they feel that they are included in the pie. You mentioned separatism, maybe you want me to specify, but you have the separatist movement in the Oduduwa area and the Biafra area and so on. I feel personally that had attention been effectively given to the concerns of those who feel underrepresented, economically, politically, those things, increased efficiency and effectiveness, fairness would dwarf the agitation. Because I think we are better united in one than separated. Then you go to the Bight of Biafra area, it is still a consideration that they are not included. They need to have a president, and that in most of the areas they are not taken care of, and so on and so forth. So there you have the two trajectories: the Oduduwa agitation, Biafra agitation. But that does not mean that other groups in the north are not agitating for different type of things. Zamfara said their gold is being mined, that they are not getting derivative, and it's being mined by the federal government. There are concerns there. There are also concerns in other parts of Benue, other parts of North Central, Northwest, about certain things that they feel they need to see happen in order to calculate the pace of development. You go to the area of Calabar Deep Sea Port, for example. It's a place that can serve the whole of the southeast, south, and so on and so forth. It's not functional to the expectation that it would like to see happen. And so when you look at various constituencies at local, state level, national level, all when they you put them together, they create room for the broader instability, what you would like to say, a security problem. But if you look at it, when we talk about security, economic security, psychological security, political security, and so on and so forth, gender representation, agricultural security. So there are various issues if you want to look at security totally, because for one, some of the soldiers, and the police, they are our brothers, they are our friends. They're married to women who are civilians. Their mothers and their fathers as all civilians. And therefore, when relating with them, for them, we have to have a concern about their lives, give them proper equipment, socialize them to understand that their objective is to defend territorial integrity, particularly the army, to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, while the police to ensure manage day-to-day issues of crime and so on, the border customs to ensure, and so there are some specificities. But if we leave them unattended to, and then some go to war, and then in the process they lose their life and their families, their wives have left unattended to, naturally even recruitment become a problem. And so we have to, when we're looking at security, look at it as a total package. Economic security, for example. How do you have children being, Nigerian being poverty at 40%? I mean, that is numbing and calls for concern. Unemployment, 27%, projected to go higher, according to ADB, 2021. So when you don't have food to eat, it's the first security. Then agriculture, floods in the country, and lack of proper financing, climate control, disturbing lack of storage facilities, climate control storage facilities, that they could have brought food from local environment to the urban center, store them. That would, availability of food would bring a depressant to the price of food and cause reduced inflation. But now inflation is jacked up to a very high level.
Prof, some people will argue that some of these issues, some of these challenges,
yes,
are emergent issues. They are issues that are emerging on a day-to-day basis, year-to-year basis, and all of that. But they want to think or argue that, look, 60 years of political independence is long enough time for a nation to put its acts together, to wield the different nationalities that came together to form the Nigerian nation today, wield it together properly and firmly, and make the desired progress. There are countries in other parts of the world today who have not spent 60 years of political independence, but which are doing much better than we are doing. The question is, what is the way out? Is it our political system, or is it the characters that are running the political system, the operators of the system, that are the problem, or a combination of very many factors?
Thank you very much. I would say internal and external factors are responsible. Psychological, economic, political factors are social factors are responsible. One, we never really had a very good reconciliation program. You have, after World War I and World War II, you had the Nuremberg Commission that attended to kind of heal about what happened, why the war was fought. You had Truth and Reconciliation Committee in South Africa. After apartheid, people have, even in a social divorce, people get to be angry, shocked, and later on go through the process of healing, acceptance, and so on and so forth. That's why you have clinicals, so that when somebody is psychologically traumatized from an event, divorce, unemployment, death in the family, and so on and so forth. There must be a mechanism, industrial psychology, and political laboratory to cohere and bring our people together. Say, look, we are one. So whatever has happened, let's dust the table, start new life afresh. I don't think that process has been completely taken care of, and as long as we don't speak to the aspiration of all Nigerians, women, gender equity by United Nations standard, now a certain number of percentage is supposed to be for women. It doesn't have to be written down, but it can also be written down. But when you see women, a woman becoming a governor, two women becoming, they are acting as role model for the other women, ladies who are aspiring to come. Then a woman to be able to run for president, even if he does not win, they are sending a message to the younger one that it's possible. Possibility is there, and so on and so forth. A woman vice president, and so on and so forth. Then representational politics. Even if you are talking about ministerial appointment, you ensure that if you look at the archives and say, this area for the last 20 years have not produced a minister, that is research. And if you do that, you start bringing about reconciliation. And if you ask people, the problem Benjamin Mays in America in those days in Morehouse, it's not to try, it's not to fail. You can try many times and fail. That's fine. You are gaining experience. Not to try at all is sin. I repeat, to try many times and fail is not a problem. You will succeed one day. But not to try at all is sin. God gave us all the powers, brotherhood and sisterhood. We cannot create, but we have to use. Everybody has light in himself. We have to use that light, that potential that covers all of us. Muslims, Christians are human beings. The Quran, they call it Allah, but we call it God. It's cultural nuance communication. We are all God's children. So it is in that regard that if we want to move ahead in the future, our leaders must take care of the military properly in order to ensure about the territorial integrity of the country. Our leaders must, in consultation with all groups, come out with a mechanism of proper representation in different areas. Like Calabar was the first independent capital of Nigeria before it was moved to Lagos, before it was moved to Abuja. If you trace back, Awo, Zik, and many others were all students in those schools in Calabar area. Therefore, something should be left behind to show the insignia of the federal presence in that area, particularly the deep sea port, and of course, good road to take transportation to the north, because you go from there and so on and so forth. So these are quite a lot of possibilities, but I think that I won't stop there to hear further your questions.
Right, because I remember reading somewhere where you made certain suggestions.
Yes.
That perhaps one of the ways to go about redressing the imbalance and the unfairness in the Nigerian social, political, and economic system is perhaps to take a second look at our political structures. For instance, since 1999, we have adopted the presidential system of government.
Yes.
Almost copying word for word, phrase by phrase, the American presidential system of government. There are those who are agitating right now that let's go back to the parliamentary system that we ran in the 60s, for instance. There are those, like you, who suggest that maybe one of the ways to redress some of these challenges, some of these accusations of inequality, imbalance, and unfairness is perhaps to create 3 more or 2 more vice presidential offices and which is to say, have 3 vice presidents who are saddled with specific responsibilities, and that might douse some of the agitations and some of the cries of marginalization as we have today.
Yes. Well, let me say that it's not an accusation. When something is there, when the pain is there, the pain needs to be nurtured and healed. Therefore, if some persons say, and I said that because of the background, I saw when I was reading in my literature and the comment I've heard, I heard the issue of rotatory presidency, which implied and expressly also, not only implied, that to be a president, you must come from the majority ethnic groups. Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. But in my opinion, it's a weak argument. And why? It's because we can go to America. Bill Clinton came from a small state, Arkansas. Because of his intellect, his public relations skills, he was able to run for president, mobilize people of all or majority ethnicities, and won twice in spite of attempted impeachment and so on, which you're aware. It is in that regard that I'm saying it would present a two-man, a Benderek man, a Boki man, an Isoko man, a Calabar man, and other minorities even in the North Plateau and so on, from having, who have potentials and who have actual knowledge, vision to be able to address Nigeria. So if that is seen as a problem, and is a problem responsible for most of this agitation, why not we try a president and 3 vice presidents? And that way, persons who have not hitherto been represented in the government, including women, maybe one would be a woman, vice president, one from a minority area, another vice president, and so on, to address particular portfolio. One may be in charge of foreign policy, foreign external affairs. One may be just in charge of internal administration, and one may be able to maybe in charge of maybe defense. But they come to the table under the presidency and talk and still get advice from the legislature and the ministers of other portfolio. That would appear to, calm the nerves of those persons who, for all this time, the agitations of this and that and so on. If you do not try, you will never know. Experience is cumulative. Try and fail and see. You learn more, and you learn more, and you learn more, and that is the part that I'm suggesting that we attempt so that, but Nigeria is good being together and take care of people, who give them amenities, what they need, those who are, real capitalist managers who are bringing food, on the table from abroad and so on and so forth. Let them have particular portfolio, but it has to be that way, because if I recognize you, you recognize me. 10 of us working in a team, contributing in a committee, the quality control of that committee would be high. But if I come and we are 10 of us in the committee, we are disagreeing everything, then the president is, what is wrong with this committee? Can we have a report? They say we are unable to agree. When are you going to be able to agree? So we have to be able to nudge ourselves, come to reason, give and take, diplomatize, negotiate. That is how I feel we will move into another political and economic morphology for a new day.
Are we far too gone in our differences not to be able to come back together and remain one united country?
I don't think so. I don't think so because in life, problems are made to be solved. Problem-solving approach. You ask yourself, what is the problem? What are the 2 or 3 most viable options of how to solve that problem? Choose one option based on cost-benefit analysis, meaning max. After that, go to implementation. That's when you want to review. And the last, you review after implementation, first 2 years, see how it's working, why it's not working, and thus you institute a mechanism of monitoring, assessment, and evaluation. Politics and power is not easy. Everybody wants power. The authority, when you talk about different scholars, say the authority, the authoritative allocation of values, who gets what, when, and how. Harold Laswell, David Easton, Karl Marx, a process of class struggle. So human wants are many, but the economic means to achieve them are scarce. Therefore, equilibrium, you have to come to an equilibrium balance of factors of production, mixing them together so that it would, when people start eating well, when people start living in a good house, and when their children are going to school, getting good education, they have hope that these children will become future leaders for tomorrow. You are bringing the politics of inclusion. And that is what has, even if the intent is there from all previous administration, the intent may be there, but the application and who you put in charge, the person may come and disappoint you. Not that you, the president, really did not want to do this, but the people you put in office, if they act contrary, then you become the bad guy. Because in politics, the buck stops on the leader, on the desk of the leader. I can appoint you, different person. If you go and fail in maritime, area that I appointed you, they will say, President has not done this, has not this, not done this. A big country with potential projected by World Bank in 2021 to be a country to watch. But look at international community in terms of investment to come to the country. They are very hesitant. I have colleagues.
That's the area I want to move into.
Oh, okay.
You recall that in 2013, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, said Nigeria was projected as a country with great potentials for growth.
Yes.
But since then, you know how many times Nigeria has fallen into economic recession and bounced back and all of that. Coupled with that are the security challenges that we currently face, which of course many say is hindering the inflow of foreign direct investments. Now, does Nigeria still have that great potential for growth that IMF talked about in 2013? And if it does, what must be done at this point in time to realize that?
Even in a marriage, I will start there. I know you are married. Okay. Confidence building. When you communicate, clear communication, horizontal and vertical communication, what do you intend to do? Number one, what are the projected benefits that will come from what you intend to do? And how can that be achieved? The government need to be able to communicate their intent, list what they want to do, and have a public relation mechanism to market their intent to their citizenry and to their international community. Then, having done that, a time would come when in the application of this, sometimes somebody, one person or 2 or 3 or 5% of the Nigerians who are maybe involved in criminality are shaping and tainting the image of other Nigeria. We have a population of almost 202 million people. And now I could say if 50,000 people are committing crime in in the east, in Calabar, in Port Harcourt, in Oyo, Lagos, and in North. If we don't have a counter mechanism to market ourselves, arrest those people who have done bad things, lock them up, it will be a deterrent. If they know that this person have committed crime, now, and nothing is done, now you are encouraging the next person to say, okay, this man stole 1 billion, nothing happened, let me go for 50 billion, and so on and so forth. The international community, of course, are watching. But let me say, the public persona of a country may not reflect the reality. Corruption is everywhere in the world. In America, there are some corrupt people. In Britain, there are some corrupt people. Some have gone to jail. Brazil, like that. So corruption comes from human greed. And it's not only Nigerians who are, capitalism. America is the headquarters of capitalism. Nigeria copying that. However, in America, there is a mechanism, due process, where somebody commits a crime or something. Look, even the case of a big president in America after January 6th, you can see what is going on. A committee of investigation has been instituted in the House and so on and so forth to check and so on and so forth. So we must ensure that our institutions are strong and that any president who comes after the other have gone should come and see institutions that are strong. He doesn't have to change it. Just start where that president stopped. And another person comes, that is how development will come. But if another president comes in office, negate all the other policy propositions that have been put in place by the other president and start a new one, maturity cannot come. The learning curve becomes deeper.
In the 1990s, Prof, Nigeria was ranked among the top 10 countries that was benefiting from foreign direct investments.
Yes.
But of course, that has been in decline over the years.
Yes.
How much is FDI really contributing to the economic growth and development of the Nigerian economy?
Well, first of all, direct foreign investment, FDI, has been tested in America, in Asia, and Europe, and has proven to be very beneficial. However, when you talk about benefit, you also have to talk about the negative. Some critics in the literature say that FDI, DI, multinational corporations really, they ask for exorbitant tax allowances, that they come in with bad and negative technology into the country, and that they lobby the government. They lobby the government to give them tax holidays, and even start lobbying the government to make political decisions that will favor them. That is the negative aspect. But generally speaking, multinational corporations through FDI brings managerial cloud, train from abroad, bring technology, and go into my recommendation that the government should go into a compact with this multinational corporation on PPP or PPA, private partnership, and so on. What are you going to do for us? Social responsibility of business. If you are functioning in an environment, do something to help the environment. Social responsibility of business does not only exist in America, in Sweden, in London. So if we negotiate and make sure that the multinational corporations, through their interaction with us, are going to be able to leave seeds of development where our own children can be able to learn, go through the university, given scholarship, that if you make $300 million You can take $50,000 should be enough to give Nigerian scholarship to go to school and so on and so forth. So this is very important because they create jobs. Government alone cannot create all the jobs. I guess that's the problem. We are expecting the government of the day, of yesterday, to always provide jobs. But if macroeconomic policies and microeconomic policies are structured in such a way that investment in infrastructure, roads, hospitals, food, in terms of establishing climate control warehouses, according to, in consonance with Geneva, food would not be thrown away, but they will be stored under climate control. And if you have food basket all around the country, you go to the market, you have a shopping mall, the food from the farm are there, pineapple, plantain, and so on. It will not get rot. Prices of goods and services will come down. So it's a total package of understanding the interplay of the micro policy and the role of multinational corporations and the role of the government. There must be flexibility. People who are put in office should be able to communicate the interests of Nigerians in general, because as we're talking now, AIT is in London, AIT is in America. People could be listening. So when they see that there is progress, attempt to change, Nigeria has great potential. I mean, we have the largest youth population in the world. I don't know whether you know that. Largest youth population. That means the potential of the leadership of tomorrow, if harnessed, can be enhanced. We have the greatest gas project in Africa, second largest producer of crude oil. After we used to be first, but now South Africa is the first and we are second. With all that potential, fertile soil, potential intelligent people, they just want a visionary leader who will take them on. They will cooperate. They will be loyal to their government if government would help them to achieve their personal objectives of raising their family, living in a house, getting a job. They should not be running to go to outside the country in order to go and look for a job and get in trouble in West African coast or Northern West African coast if looking inward. Like, for example.
So how much do you think that the problems of insecurity may be hurting FDI, foreign direct investment, and the perception of Nigeria being a very corrupt country, with almost all its institutions, including, of course, the police now being indicted by the FBI and all of that? How much of that is hurting the process of foreign direct investment?
First of all, 90% of perception is reality, according to the literature. If every day, somebody says that area is no go area, it's a war zone, don't go there, and the investor comes to invest to make a profit. Profit motivation is the basis for capitalism. Are you with me? Now, having said that, it is our responsibility to own up that there are problems. Now, that takes you to a different area like oil bunkering, like the issue of corruption. For example, let's talk about the oil, the perception and reality. Oil was discovered in Olobere in 1956. Prior to that time, the people in the west, in the south Niger Delta, were fishermen and were farmers. But with the discovery of oil and the arrival, ascendancy of Shell and other Mobil, and so on, production was stimulated and, economy began to boom. But the downside was that the oil spill was causing gas flaring, affecting even breathing.
The environment?
Yeah, breathing.
Health?
And so on and so forth. Then talk about the destruction of the habitat in the aquatic environment, the fishes, which was a source of livelihood for the people in that area. And also oil spills, polluting the environment. It became very difficult for the people to go to farm or go to fish. That resulted to a lot of unemployment. Now, the reverse side of that is a paradox. Here is a rich oil area who have now, unfortunately, become poor, and they have taken to alternative self-help mechanism by militancy, breaking pipe heads, well heads, and extracting almost to the tune of 1.7 billion dollars in a month, because 300 to 5, according to the literature, 300 to 400 barrels of crude oil, are stolen, through that process. But the argument will be how Nigeria do not provide ships. Nigeria do not provide tankers. They are not manufacturing, they get them from outside. And before a dredger ship can enter the country, it must have cleared through official ropes and so on and so forth. There's collaboration. The militants cannot do it alone. There must be private persons, I don't know, who are responsible in giving them assistance. The security people who go to the creeks to fight, that place is full of mangroves and so forth. The securities do not know too much about that. And in the process, casualties occur, but on both sides. And everybody wants to defend themselves. And so that's on that area. Quickly, on the other area of corruption. Recently, a service-prone company visited Powerhouse Cooper, visited Vice President Sibanjo, in giving that corruption has the potential of destroying the economy, and has been destroying the economy, projected that in 2030, that Nigeria will be losing $2,000 per head to its GDP as a result of that. That as of 2014, Nigeria lost $1,000 per head, and so on and so forth, and recommended that if serious action is taken to curb down corruption, the potentiality of Nigeria in boosting its economy, providing jobs for the country would be almost to a certain maximum. So again, looking at it and of course, there's public corruption, business corruption, as the literature explicated. So then the other thing is education. That the budget of education is constantly declining, but I consider education the mainstay of any economy, because the more qualified people are, universities need them to. Companies need to recruit from the university quality persons, engineers, technological skills-oriented people, managerial skills, and so on and so forth. So if enough money is not invested in education, the literature suggests that the funds, between 1999 to 2009, that the money was depleting. But it also said that Nigeria has spent over $1 trillion, in education. But the ripple effect from that money, impact, is not seen. Equipment-wise, strikes, let them deal with educational sector. Look at like today. Doctors are on strike. I can't understand.
Resident doctors.
I can't understand the mix of that variable. The schools are always on strike. They need money, equipment, management of school. I'm an academics. I came from academia. Without funds to travel for research and so on, you can produce. The same thing with doctors who are solving health problems under COVID-19. So a conjugate of all this suggests that oil, bunkering, educational investment, and fighting corruption, among others, increasing food and agricultural productivity, and then stimulating a civic culture of dialogue. No matter how we disagree with ourselves, both the military and the civilians should be dialoguing on a regular basis. Civilians from the north, from the south, from the east should be, in fact, there should be inter-party crisis management committee. It does not matter from one party to the other. There should be inter-party crisis management committee, inter-party budget committee. When we do all this in the openness of power, people will come to say, hey, this is a new day. And those are things that I just wanted to react.
Some sort of cooperative democracy.
Exactly.
All right, Prof, before I let you go, I must ask you what you think and consider to be the strategy of the President Biden administration in terms of his foreign policy towards Africa and especially so towards Nigeria. Very quickly.
Well, President Biden is already shown, one, by first of all choosing a black woman to be his vice president. They are sending COVID-19 equipment to Nigeria and to South Africa, major hotspots. I do think that under Biden administration, the relationship between America and Nigeria particularly, and because Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa, and America is the largest investor in Nigeria of all foreign investors. So they would want, for purposes of their own investment, and the fact that vice president is a sister to do. But concludingly, I think that we can attract foreign investors back. I can pick a phone, call 3 or 4 or 5 foreign investors that this is going. Some of them are watching, and say, look, it's a new day. You saw me discussing, and we put a team of foreign investors, but they will give conditions as to if you do this, I will do this, we'll do this, and so on and so forth. So we have to recalibrate wherever we stopped, whatever has not worked well, we should do an assessment.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. I wish we had a lot more time. We have exhausted 1 hour.
Oh, really?
Just talking, it's been a very wonderful time talking with you. I hope that some other time when you are around, we could again take a look at some of these other issues that we didn't cover today. Professor NCHOR OKORN, Professor of Political Science, and of course, is a Baron Hilton Endowed Professor of Political Science and former head of Department of the Political Science at the Dillard University in New Orleans, the United States. He is currently visiting back home in Nigeria. He's also the founder of African Network Organization.
African World Network.
African World Network Organization, I beg your pardon. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, for your contributions.
It's a pleasure being back and meeting with you. I hope that some of the recommendations that I have posited, if properly looked at, from security, but remember, security, as I said, security, economic security, agricultural security, environmental and social security. Inclusion of all that would make us a better country.
A greater country indeed. Thank you so much for investing your time with us. We'll meet you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics and Power. Bye for now.